So let's talk about climate change. When you come to Pakistan, this is one of the major issues. Pakistan is one of those countries which has suffered from climate change a lot more than many other countries because obviously of the river flowing and upstream and glaciers melting. And last year the floods caused damages across Pakistan. So what kind of conversations do you have you had with the officials in Pakistan, and what kind of a cooperation do you think can be done between UN and Pakistan?
So I was actually up in Gilgit, Baltistan for the last 2 days.
How was it? How was the experience over there?
It's an extraordinary place to visit. I mean, the scenery, the landscape is phenomenal. The people are extraordinary. You know, tough mountain people, but incredibly generous and kind with their time. But they are frightened because they can see, even in the last 3 or 4 years, the way that the movement of the glaciers, the retreat of the glaciers because of climate change is causing the flash floods, the lakes exploding, the avalanches that are driving so many people from their homes. And so what I've been discussing with the government is, how do we do more to prepare communities for those crises? So we're putting in early warning systems, for example. We're helping with training so that communities are ready, first aid training, for example, ready for the crisis when it hits. We're supporting the efforts where necessary to resettle people in safer housing further from those disaster zones. And I had good meetings with the Prime Minister, with the Foreign Minister, but I also visited the National Disaster Management Authority and saw for myself the huge amount of planning and preparation which is being done at the national level.
So you think the money, the funding should be spent for these disasters rather than acting later on after the crisis has hit?
Unfortunately, you have to do both. But it's much more effective to spend in advance of a crisis. It's cheaper to try to prevent the crisis and prepare communities for that moment rather than dealing with it afterwards. And remember that many of these climate crises are predictable now. The communities showed me that they know when the flash floods are a greater risk, when they know the areas where the avalanches pose the biggest threat.
But do you think Pakistan is getting adequate international support in this?
Well, it's getting strong UN support, including from our emergency fund and from our agencies here in country. We have an outstanding resident coordinator, very popular colleague, Mohammed Yahya, who's done a fantastic job here, working with the authorities and working with the local communities to prepare as best as we can with the limited resources that we have.
Right. Another issue, because of the growing conflicts and obvious political situation, the number of refugees are rising. And I was reading the data. It says that according to UN Refugee Agency, that 1 in every 70 people is forcibly displaced now. Now, obviously, this is putting enormous pressure on countries, especially developing countries like Pakistan, that has hosted millions of refugees from Afghanistan. So what is UN doing about it, and what is international community doing about it?
So we have a very active team from the UNHCR here. I've spent time with them and with all of our UN colleagues over the last few days. And so they're trying to support those communities with food, water, medicine, shelter. We're also insisting that refugees are treated in the right way, in accordance with international humanitarian law. But I've also been on the other side of the border in Afghanistan and seen refugees when they're returning back to their communities. And of course, we try and support them through that process as well. But we want them to be treated with full respect and full dignity.
Yeah. And Pakistan has done that for many years. Millions of refugees have been hosted by Pakistan.